brimming with tears. "Laura Othnan." "And your child's name?" "Nicholas Othnan." She burst into tears, covering her face with her hands. He wrote down their names, careful to spell them correctly. "I'm so sorry," he said, feeling the inadequacy of the words. "How old is he?" "My son is 4. She shook her head. 4? What could the demons want from him? A month ago, when he still lived on the commune, Brian would have assumed the reference to demons was purely metaphorical, a scathing commentary on the depraved immorality of urban life. Now he had seen actual demons, working as delivery boys and cleaning the city streets. He knew that magical parts of demons were harvested to operate machines like cameras and cars, but he had learned quickly that the portals between the human and demon worlds were tightly controlled by the Department of Demonological Affairs. So who would have unleashed wild, uncontrollable demons so violently into a daycare? Brian tried to think of something encouraging to tell the woman, but the only words that came to him were religious texts from his childhood. He hadn't found them very comforting himself, so he couldn't imagine them being any more beneficial to this grieving parent. "The doctors and nurses are very good. I'm certain he'll get the best of care." The woman gave him a small smile. "Thank you." Brian made his way around the waiting room, gathering the names of relatives and deflecting desperate questions that he could not answer. In the corner, Brian saw the police officer sitting on a child's plastic chair that looked far too small for him. His eyes were red-rimmed and swollen, and his face was ashen. He had blood oozing from a small wound across his neck, and he was on fire. Brian glanced around, but no one else seemed the least bit concerned about this. It was just another thing about Parma City that amazed him. A man sat around, on fire, and other than giving him a wide berth, no one seemed to care. The man was handsome in a roguish sort of way. He had delicate facial features, but his build was brawny and strong. He had long, almost feminine eyelashes that contrasted nicely with his 5 o'clock shadow. His brown hair was longer and shaggier than Brian expected on a police officer, cut just below his ears, and every inch of exposed skin flickered and flared with blue and yellow flame. The cop tensed, closing his eyes, and he whispered something under his breath. The flames died, but when he opened his eyes they burst over him again, smoldering, the air around him wavering with heat. Still, no one reacted. The cop kept glancing to the operating room. He clearly needed medical attention himself. His neck was bleeding, and he staunched it with his bare hand. Tyra reappeared then, her expression severe as she quickly leafed through procedural binders and wrote down numbers. Brian handed her his list of names. "Tyra?" She didn't respond. He noticed she was writing down phone numbers from an emergency nurse roster. "Shouldn't someone help that man over there?" "Which man?" she snapped. "The man on fire?" He pointed. Tyra looked up, scanned the room, and then scowled at him. "What are you talking about?" The cop was an inferno. Could Tyra really not see that? Seconds later she was gone again, cell phone and list of numbers in hand. The least Brian could do was offer the cop some water. Maybe it would cheer him up or put him out. He poured a cup and approached just as the cop covered his face with his hands. Brian hesitated. "Here you go," he said softly, touching the back of the man's hand. The man flinched away, eyes snapping open. "I didn't mean to startle you," Brian said. If there's anything you need, let me know." He pressed the cup into the officer's hand. The man stared at him, wide-eyed and shocked. "I'm sorry," Brian said again, lamely. He reached out and touched the officer's head, like his mother used to do to him when he was upset. Brian left him alone, but when he glanced back, the cop was still staring at him, touching his own head, where Brian had touched him, and looking as though Brian had just shot him through the heart.